there's a theory for that. I think that's why when you look at a lot of esports, teams tend to make runs through the lower bracket because they just keep playing nonstop and they get hot.
There's also the fact that, again, I said that this at the beginning of the match, and I still believe this, is like on paper, if you take Rise Nation and you put them up against Soniqs, that is a very close matchup. Yep. Just on paper, especially if they're going into it, both of them fresh teams with limited information. The only real problem, again, is just the fact that Rise Nation have the advantage of information in this instance. So we'll see if that's enough for Rise Nation. I would say that this is Rise's match to lose. Safely, you could say that, but that might not really matter. Let's see. Capital, Maverick, Kaid. Capital, just powerful everywhere. We've seen that quite a lot recently. Maverick is amazing. Probably one of the best operators on Villa, and Mira is Mira. The Kaid ban is a little interesting. So that was by Rise. So, And we did see some interesting Kaid plays by both teams in the first match today. Don't see that as necessarily an essential ban, but I guess just preference. They know what they don't want to deal with. At least there's that for Rise. We'll be going on to Aviator, as per regular. I mean, sometimes teams start in Trophy. I think it's, especially in Europe, we see a lot more Trophy beginnings on Villa, but it's kind of preference. Both Villa and Trophy.
Even Kitchen, we've seen downstairs start things off a couple times.
Sometimes if you're trying to upset your team. But both Trophy and Aviator are considered to be on par with each other, I think, by most teams. Two very viable bomb sites. Kitchen, a little bit less so because you have to deal with that vertical play from above, which is just considerably easier than trying to play from below. Anyway, here we go. Loading in. And the operator selection, pretty versatile for the attacking team. They've got their hard destruction, an abundance of soft destruction. They've got anti-electronics in the IQ, which is probably the best anti-electronic operator on this map because you can play underneath on most sites. And the Nomad is, well, Nomad. And in case that didn't make any sense, Nomad is one of the most universally powerful operators on attack because what she does is prevent you from going to a place. Period. Which is really, that's a very useful tool to have. 3 different places, actually.
Rise played Dark Zero, played A14 on Villa. Rise didn't ban anybody. It was that match.
Was it really that match?
Yeah, it was that match.
Oh, jeez.
Dark Zero won 7-5.
Okay.
But then if you want to go back even farther than that, it was played in number 12. Rise beat EXG, in which was all defense the whole way. 1 attacking round victory. And in the interview, England even said, we're very confident in our defenses, but we've struggled on attack, which...
I remember that cat.
Which, if you're Soniqs, that's great, because right now, Soniqs' kryptonite so far through this matchup has been on attack. Soniqs have struggled against aggressive teams on attack, especially 92 Dream Team. Which is, I guess, technically the only team they've played in this match.
So yeah, I do think...
You ever just do that? You ever do that? Because I just did that.
It's all right. It's all right. It is interesting, though, is that you mentioned that Rise, they need to work on their attacks, right? Well, Soniqs just went up against a team that has pretty potent attacks, and that's 92 Dream Team. You got some 2 halves going on there. I wonder if they can work on it together later on. I mean, if Rise continues or manages to win this, then they will be a Pro League team along with 92 Dream Team. We'll see. Avian gets the first kill of this match onto Buck. It's a really good pick to get, and I don't think he'd used any of his nades. Could be wrong about that. Maybe a little bit over into Gun Vault, unsure, but we didn't see it.
Even used a very little amount of his utility overall, which would be a massive detriment to Rise Nation, losing a Buck. And you've seen on Villa, with as many soft destructive surfaces as there are, you know that a Buck gets extremely large mileage on this map in particular. Sledge Can 2 to a lesser extent. A lot of teams when Villa first came out were running Jackal with that secondary shotgun for very similar reasons. So this could possibly get really tough here. What's going to hurt Rise Nation more than anything is their lack of a Thatcher, and that's their biggest undoing right now, is that they're putting themselves in harm's way to take out all these mute jammers, and if you're the Soniqs, you can be anticipating that and fire back quite easily.
Yeah, the Buck was killed, I believe, by 90 because he was trying to nade to get the mute jammer, and I mean, that's it. And now we've spent about a minute and a half just Rise waiting to attack. because they couldn't get the gun vault open. Here goes default plant behind the vault door, Legion trap to slow it up. Gas canisters, there's still 2 left, only 20 seconds. Those are going to start coming out pretty soon here. Neptunes gets an impact kill, that's impressive. And gas canisters to deny the plant. There's very little chance for Rise, and they've still not gotten a single kill. Got us Neptunes and Avian all lit up, but Super with the double kill from behind, and Avian gets the final kill. That is a perfect round for the defense of Soniqs.
That's a massive morale booster, too.
Yeah.
If you start this matchup off as the Soniqs and you lose your first couple rounds, given the history of today for this team, it's very easy for you to just, that's it. It snowballs, and you're done. Mentally, you're out of the game, and it's very easy for your opponents to take full advantage of that. In this case, you've had a nice 15, 20-ish minute break to recuperate, talk amongst yourselves, and recover. And while there is definitely a mental factor, one of the things that really is kind of even between a lot of these teams is that many of them, they don't tilt so much that they'll throw an entire game away. But a couple rounds they might throw away with bad calls, anger, wrong picks, bad decision-making skills. That might be the difference maker here. So you get your very first round against a team that is good on Villa. This is Rise's pick. You take round number 1. You win 1 or 2 more rounds, and Soniqs can keep themselves in it and possibly even start some momentum of their own, not just offsetting what happened against 92 Dream Team, but knocking Rise Nation off.
You know, the thing that really is blowing my mind is the lack of versatility on Rise out of that first round. They seemed rigid, is the word I would use. They had an IQ in play. IQ could have gone below to shoot the Mute Jammer. Then you open up Gun Vault, you're good to go. The Buck could have started going below, but even after the Buck was dead, there were options, is what I'm trying to say for Rise Nation, to get into that Gun Vault. And they didn't use any of them. They just kind of tried to push in through North Door into games, into Aviator, rather. It was just a really odd decision-making tree for Rise. It's done now. They're going to be attacking to clear the roamers in this round, trying to establish some control. They're going to have to contest with some roamers from Soniqs, though, as you can see. Well set up here on the opposite side from the bomb site, over here on the south. That's Soniqs with, I believe it was a Legion and a Pulse, both roaming. Ghost is going to start falling back, though. I mean, a minute wasted already. Rice hasn't actually gotten into the building, as far as I can tell. Oh, here they go. They're in. They're in now. Just took them a minute. And we are pretty far from the bomb site right now. This is trophy defense, guys.
You got Ghost playing downstairs on Pulse. This is something that we've seen before on Space Station. It's Rampy, actually, that would be on that roam down below, inside of the wine cellar area. And you can sit down far enough that when you're on that cardiac sensor, you can still keep decent control, especially if you're sitting on one of the staircases and you can rotate quickly, given the fact that Pulse is that 3-speed. It's not too hard for you to be able to get back to site fast enough. And usually, the basement of Villa is so neglected.
Yeah.
And to a lot of teams is really an afterthought. It might sound crazy, but if you watch the VODs of a fair amount of Pro League teams, they don't do what they need to do to find where everybody is, possibly down below. And it's really come back to haunt a couple teams.
Yeah, the basement can sometimes be treated as a highway by the defenders and the attackers alike. I've seen a lot of attacking teams enter into the basement, assuming it's just free territory, not even droning it. And they get away with it, too, because why? I mean, it's the basement of Villa. So why? Some people don't even know why it exists. It is often a very useful highway for both teams. But Jaeger in Master, just waiting. He gets droned out, gonna go for a run out, and it works. He gets 1 and 2. Neptunes, beautiful play. Vandal will punish the Soniqs, but it's at what cost? That's 2 down, and Master pressure alleviated by just a Jaeger.
Keep in mind, this was Neptune's old team.
Yeah.
Worth noting that he played on this roster all the way back when they were Infamy, and then onwards. It's been quite a while since he's been associated with them. Not that he's going to know anything about the team in terms of in-depth strategies, but he's going to have some help from the rest of his team. Avian takes down Vandal, and you'll see Goddess get finished off by Hyper. 2 from Hyper. If there's anybody who's going to keep this close, it's him. Ghost from below feeding information to the best of his visibility to Neptunes. Diffuser is still outside, and you've got 15 seconds where the situation for Rise, your must-win, is get all the kills as you can. But they're funneled right on in. Neptunes absolutely crushing everybody in his path. Takes out another, but will he be able to find yet another kill? On surveillance, Neptune's pistol out. He just needs to waste as much time as possible. Good joint effort between both him and Ghost. Going to show what droning can do to be able to figure out where your information gatherers are, and it's Ghost who goes undetected. And it's another round for Soniqs.
Susquehanna Soniqs have been having a pretty good match so far. I'd say there hasn't been a lot of answer back from Rise, a lot of rigidity on the side of Rise, and that they really, they're just seemingly... I think you're right in your assessment when you said that it's that Soniqs are going to come into this match really awake, really pumped up, and it seemingly is that way as Rise not even close to as present in this match right now. Right, they're making a lot of really basic mistakes. Not having anybody watching for the run out there from Jaeger, not droning out Master. Usually what will happen on like a Master balcony take, let's say you're taking Master balcony, the first thing that you need to do is establish that there's nobody in Master and Master Closet. Then you can relax a little bit when it comes to watching for the run out. But that did not happen. They tried to. They started that process, but the call wasn't made when the drone was destroyed on the balcony drone hole that, hey, my drone got shot, which means, hey, there's probably somebody in Master. You could make the argument that, oh yeah, maybe he thought it was an evil eye. That's beside the point. The point is, somebody should have been waiting for a run out from a Jaeger there. Neptune got away with something he completely, without a doubt, he shouldn't have gotten away with. And he managed to win the round because of it. It's a good job from Neptune to have good situational awareness. I would say that's one of those why is he there moments, but it's not really on you as a defender. It's not like, oh, you made a mistake being in an odd spot. It's on the attackers not being diligent enough to be ready for that. Rise need to shore up a lot of the holes that they're leaving in their attacks right now because it's pretty apparent that they're not bringing all the right tools when struggling with opening gun vaults, but then also not just being aware enough to hold a run out from Master. Unfortunate. We'll see if they can move forward from that, though. It's only 2 rounds in.
I'm very curious to see the way that Rise ends up utilizing this secondary entry role alongside Hyper. Now, they usually will have Crazy move alongside of him, but you have Vandal almost come in interchangeably on a lot of occasions, and right now it does look like Vandal is going to be the person that's going to be alongside Hyper, because especially on this side, you're going to keep the buck upstairs. You know that you need him for a kitchen take, as that's the site right now that you see from the Soniqs. I wouldn't be too surprised if Vandal's the one who gets a little aggressive, especially when you look at the fact that, I was going to say you don't really need him for the final moments of a round, but you've got a Pulse on the board, you've still got a Valkyrie. You don't really want to gamble on an IQ this early.
Yeah.
And I say early because, once again, half of the round has gone by, and it feels like Rise has just gotten inside of the building.
Impact tricking coming out, but it's going to miss. Well, there is a mute jammer here stopping Habana from opening up the wall, and it doesn't seem like he's aware he missed. Its second impact will very likely not miss. Uncertain. Seems like some of them pellets will detonate. Actually, most of them. That's interesting. Super will get the first kill of the round. He has been doing that quite a lot, and as Hyper goes down, that's the primary fragger for Rise Nation dealt with. A lot of explosive utility as well on the lifeline, just not there. Goddess playing a tight angle. She's really good at this, and she's going to miss the shots initially. On low HP, starts to use those gas canisters in the final minute.
Perfect time to choke out anybody possibly pushing on in. And once again, it's Neptune's this time on the Pulse, not Ghost, but you're going to have an operator who is going to absolutely crush you as an attacker if you can't figure him out on time. Goddess up on her perch will take out one, looks for a second, unable to grab it as Acid just bulldozes on in. Tavian to the rescue, but no, England will cut him down, and Rise will draw things even. Waiting around the bomb site is Ghost. You hear an air jab go off, possibly over top of Neptune's. Super still off site. He'll try to get back, but right now it's Rise putting a lot of pressure on the site. There's Ghost to take out England. A C4 will open up a pathway back in for Super with Diffuser down. He's going to have to go up against that Nomad of Acid who doesn't have a lot of HP left. You've still got this Pulse just lingering around, waiting, giving information, and it's going to be so difficult. And there's Ghost to cut down Crazy, and Acid falls as well. This is Rise's map, but man, have they looked bad so far. Through 3 rounds, the Soniqs have run all over them. That's a full site rotation, and we'll likely go back to Aviator for round number 4.
Isn't Rise like the Titan toppler on Villa? Like, isn't that what they do? That's a little bit. I mean,
You have to go back far enough to.
Yeah, but I seem to remember some pretty amazing wins for Rise on this map. And right now we're looking down the barrel of a 3-0 from the side of Soniqs. The persistence from Soniqs has been pretty admirable. I mean, they, in that last round, for example, seem to have lost control when they lost Island. The memorial push there from Rise Nation was... I mean, they just stacked up on it pretty heavily, and Acid managed to make it work in the end. But he did make it work. Following that, I expected the crossfire from Laundry and Memorial to be enough for Rise to turn that into a win. However, Soniqs was aware of the thing that they were exposed to the most, that crossfire, and they simply backed off. And at that point, there was so much time wasted, and still a man advantage in the way of Soniqs, because they had been peeling away at Rise throughout that entire push, that it was an easy holdout. So you really got, again, the persistence from Soniqs is really what you got to admire in these last 3 rounds. The fact that they just they are stuck to this match and the idea that is Pro League right now, and it's impressive. So good job to Soniqs there, avoiding certain death in 1 round in particular, making 3 rounds in a row on the first map of this series.
The good thing if you're a Rise Nation fan is that they're not prone to tilt.
That's true.
Even in draws, you can talk to England, and even in losses, you see that they're always seemingly in a good mood when you see their conduct on social media after a matchup. And I mean, this is probably the most pressure that this roster's had in at least a season.
We can also say, I think, with decent confidence, that Rise is one of those teams that starts to pick up the longer they play, especially against the same enemy. Rise will eventually, I'm sure, start to figure out what's going on with Soniqs. I was talking about the persistence of Soniqs in the first match, for example. I mean, we were talking about Goddess, in particular, who had a really amazing first match against 92 Dream Team. She was one of the big reasons why Soniqs ended up winning some of their rounds, because she just stayed alive for so long, in the right position, holding the right angles to win the round. And that is what now I'm seeing being exhibited by all of the players on the side of Soniqs. So again, admiration from me to them, but I'm sure at some point Rise will figure that out, and they'll figure out a way to play around it. Now here's the question, have they figured out how to get into Gunvault? Because last time it was a bit of a struggle, and oh no, it's getting even worse. The Habana is gone, no more Gunvault for Rise Nation. This is looking a whole heck of a lot like the first round. Following a complete cycle by Soniqs, 3 defenses in a row, it seems like we might even be springing straight into another one.
That is a horrid blow for Rise Nation to start off with. And your sole hard breacher, keep in mind there's still a Thermite on the board, but Rise Nation isn't known to run multiple hard breachers on Villa and even on most maps.
Yeah.
This could possibly have been a fatal blow happening very early on to the chances, and it'll be a lot of credit to Rise if they're able to make that recovery. Now, Avian's going to take quite a bit of damage, but he's going to get very aggressive on the Crazy. Gun him down outside on the balcony. And this lead in this round in particular for the Soniqs will continue to grow. That's 2 bodies down, and Crazy will once again be one of the first people taken off of the board.
I mean, this is looking like Soniqs just taking control of the situation. That push from Avian really shouldn't have been successful. There's no world where that is something you get away with. Rise Nation going full force in through this north door, straight into Aviator, and they've got control of B-site, if nothing else, but there's a lot of off-site pressure from the smoke, and he's going to be the first casualty on the side of Soniqs. Neptune's able to take down Hyper, though, so answer back. Vandal answering in return, and Rise Nation still very much in this, trying to go for a plant, but they've got so much off-site pressure here from the Soniqs. Vandal's finally going to be finished off, leaving just Acid in a 1 versus 3. Nomad does work out in his favor, but he dies to a Lesion Trap. Nice try there from Rise Nation, but ultimately the fact that they could not get the Gunvault open meant they were playing a really linear round, and it ended up costing them that round. I'm sorry, I stumbled over my words there.
It happens. This is dangerous territory now for Rise. Because you look at the way that Villa trends. Villa has always had the distinction of being one of the most defender-sided maps, period.
Yes.
And if you as an attacking team win more than 2 rounds, you're in pretty good shape for the most part. But there's not a lot of room now for error for Rise Nation. If they fail to win the next 2 rounds before they go on to their own defense, we're just going to seemingly rush towards overtime as fast as we can. that's a big problem because all it's going to take is one stumble on defense from Rise Nation if Soniqs go perfect through this half, and that's it. That's all she wrote.
Yeah.
A major confidence booster for the Soniqs, who Neptune's, well, if I remember correctly, actually surpassed if the first player overall in Challenger League for most kills.
I have not looked at Challenger League stats.
If I remember correctly, Neptune's had the best stats.
Oh yeah?
For Challenger League, and he's continuing that today. He got shut down pretty hard in the 92 Dream Team matchup. There was a lot of games where it was Avian or Super who seemed to be leading the way. Goddess kept pace with most of them despite playing support roles. And
I mean, he won that trophy round. The last time
that's true.
The last time Soniqs were on trophy, it was pretty much Neptune's.
That's true. That is very true.
I mean, he's been having a really good second match here on against Rise, so got to give him props for that. It's just, the stats are holding up here. But I think it's also a big part Rise having not a great match so far. They're going to try and clear out from the south this time. No master balcony presence just yet. There's still time to rotate into that. They did clear out the south side last time they were pushing on to trophy. They also rotated on to master balcony a little bit later in the round. Question is, when is that going to happen? You can see Hyper going for the ACOG here on Ashe instead of the R4C. Many pro players, actually, the majority of the time I see Ashe played these days, it is the R4C with the ACOG, in Pro League at least. But it's not a universal thing.
It's the way that both Hyper and Nyx like to play.
Yeah.
On Ashe in North America. Skies has used the ACOG and the G36 a couple times, but by and large, when we do see him play Ashe, which has been very limited so far this season, probably most notably in the matchup a couple weeks back, when Reciprocity was running a variety of different weapons and different skins on all their guns over and over.
Yeah.
You had Skies playing that R4C too, so. Anywho, you've got in through Aviator, through Study. You've now gotten towards the door over on Trophy.
No,
and Neptune's once
again
again going to go for a run out, but no, he's going to get caught by England. They are wise to his tricks.
Here we go. This is what we wanted to see from Rise in the past. The diligence, the readiness, waiting for that run out. Despite the fact that Neptune's adjusted, it was still an excessive preparedness on the side of Rise to allow them to get a free kill.
They still don't know that Ghost is downstairs. And this was the biggest focus that Rise needed to commit to.
Yeah.
Was that you had one body downstairs. It's actually the two UMPs that are downstairs. A Super is also joining Ghost, as either or can rotate and retake. It looks like Super will be the first one to head towards those stairs, as Ghost will likely be perched below.
He gets the air jab too, that's huge.
So Super's able to get back, possibly undetected. And if he can be fed information, he looks to be a little bit too far, then he could be in a really good spot. But the castle barricade set up from his own team is going to be his first problem here. Using an impact grenade is an opportunity to go on through. And I don't know if Ghost realizes that he's not able to do much to the Nomad, who's currently on drone on the stairs.
He's got that heartbeat detector, though, and he still has that C4, I believe. So he'll be able to do some damage from below when the plant eventually does come out. Only 20 seconds remain here for the attacking team. Impacts allow versatility for the castle, and he will down one on the stairs. That's Acid, who gets eliminated. Goddess, though, the main anchor is going to be taken down, and Vandal's going to eliminate Super on the flank. Ghost is going to be a big linchpin for this round. In fact, the only defender left. And his C4, very unlikely to hit, as it will detonate and get no target. He is known to be downstairs. The stairs will be diligently watched, and there it is. Crazy gets the last kill, and the first round for Rise Nation in this matchup.
Getting an awful lot more of that for Rise's fans moving forward.
Yeah.
The Soniqs have just looked good, and I mean, it's not just that they've looked good, but it's also that they're being aided right now by the way that this map works.
Yeah, it's true.
But it's been so limp. Rise's attacks. They haven't had any real, there's been no strength to them at all. They seem to have some person entering on their own. Sometimes they don't have any assistance whatsoever. Somebody gets picked off.
It's getting better.
It's improving, but you've only got one more round to do it now, and it's going to be the same site that you just tackled.
I mean, overall, in terms of momentum, I'm telling you, Rise is one of those build-up teams. I know that they've already lost this half. That's pretty decisive. But that last round gave us a good example of Rise's adaptability. Their ability to adapt, I should say, in that they were ready for Neptune's run out, and even the fact that it came from somewhere else. Good on them to expect it and counter it so well. That's the diligence I was talking about and I wanted from them earlier. Good job. But you're right. It might be too little too late. Because when they go for the half rotation, I mean, yeah, okay, they get to defend. Villa's a defender-favored map. Sure, sure. But, I don't know. They're going to have to adapt all over again. It's going to be a little bit different. Sometimes, though, it does come down to just figuring out your team. Attacker, defender side doesn't really matter every single time. Sometimes it just has to do with knowing what you're up against in terms of the mentality that your enemy is using. Side be damned. But we'll see. I don't know. 4-1 right now for Soniqs, and no matter how you look at it, that's a really good start, especially considering the disadvantages that Soniqs has going into this that we talked about many times. Now, it'll be a south clear once again for Rise, but this time they will be heavily contested, it seems, by Soniqs. Or at least contested? I mean, Pulse is going to fall back pretty quickly there. Go for reinforced on the doorway, and Hyper, aware of that, tried to punish the Pulse, but was unable to, rather. Bleh. Unable to.
Sometimes words escape us, right?
English is hard, man.
But still, once again, I mean, does it just look like Rise, they're not really droning for each other? Is that what I've really noticed, is that a lot of times Hyper doesn't appear to have an escort?
Yeah, the control that Hyper just got onto Bar here is actually established by his knowledge that there isn't a Pulse there because he heard the Pulse falling back.
Yeah.
Like, that's it. So, no, you're right. There's not a lot of teamwork going on here for Rise right now. Or at least if there is, it's limited. They're working in tandem to clear, but it's all face check, and that's dangerous, especially on Villa.
Yeah, I think that's one of the things I've noticed over the last 5 rounds is that there's been a very significant lack of drones. And oh no, Super from below taking England down. Doesn't even see it as back turn to the action. So now Super will head towards the stairs, but bad timing, almost wins the fight against Acid. Somehow, Super getting very lucky there.
Wow, that is the worst timing, as you say.
Yeah, that really could have been a double play for Super if he had been able to get the kill onto Acid too. And there was a third body from Rise nearby as well.
Yeah. Well, he did a lot of damage to Acid, so it's not all lost. He recovered that engagement, that's for sure. The fact that Acid will die in one shot is going to be a huge boon when the attack comes out. And Neptunes is still present. We've been talking him up, talking about his fragging potential, and he's going to have a lot of opportunity to show us that here in this round. From below, Ghost still has the C4, and he's going to use it, and it will get a kill onto Vandal, who had just taken out Neptune. So that is a very important pick there for the Pulse from below. And again, he goes left unchecked.
It's going to allow Ghost to come back to site 2, but it's still very, very close. Avian almost losing his life in a bit of a scuffle there with Hyper. As Hyper tries to dive, Goddess 2! Shut down from Acid, but he's got 2 of his own! He's holding onto that diffuser, but playing around the shield is Ghost. The UMP is not known to be one of the best guns on defense, but it's reliable in a pinch. That's exactly what they'll do to the remaining members of Rise Nation. That's a 5-1 split, as now Rise will move to defense and look to do the same damage that Soniqs just did to them.
Some really big plays from a lot of different players in that last round. Very fun to watch, but ultimately, a 5-1 half, it doesn't really scream intensely close competition, quite like that last round did, for example. Again, I got to give props to Rise Nation for a nice try there, but you know what was not a thing that Rise did? Master pressure. And why? It's just so darn curious. It's likely the fact that Rise were struggling too much with those roamers coming from other parts of the building that they just didn't have time or manpower, whichever it may be, to rotate someone over to Master Balcony. They also lost someone to Super's roam downstairs who was going to Master Balcony early on. And that loss of a player, I think, really dissuaded Rise from going to the Master Balcony again. But what that ended up doing, well, first of all, as you could clearly tell at the end there, it cost Rise the round, because where was the last defender, Ghost? In Master. But also, it meant that Rise, throughout the engagement on the site, did not have any crossfire. They were simply engaging in a linear fight, and those are never fun to win. In fact, I would say that the majority of the rounds Soniqs won was because Rise was forced into a linear gunfight. Like, for example, every time they attacked Aviator through the north door, and they didn't open gunfall. I mean, how do you get around not opening gunfall?
I mean, you don't bring a Thatcher, and then you have no way to get the mute jammer on the other side of it.
That's another thing. Why are they not bringing Thatcher? Like, he's not banned. He's been banned today.
Soniqs did ban him. The Soniqs banned him on Clubhouse.
Yeah, so
But
whatever.
one thing that I've looked at quite intently with Soniqs and the way that they've played so far today is that there hasn't been a lot of movement on the operators that they pick. This isn't a blow-up, but you've got Super on Montaigne and a Nomad in the hands of Avian. They're going to forgo the Capitao, which has been a staple of this team. There's going to be no Thatcher. Capitao is obviously banned, so they can't play him. And they're the ones who banned him, so they knew this heading in. They knew that he's a very powerful tool, and they wanted to get rid of him and take him off the board, which is what is going to put both Avian and Super, the two people who have been playing Capitao the most, on opposite roles. I'm very interested to see what becomes of this Montaigne push from Super, because he's got a couple things that will slow him down, a couple impediments in the way. Number one, there's going to be goo mines. Number two, there's going to be yokai drones. Super's going to find one of those goo mines immediately right as I say that. And then the other thing, too, with Monty with his shield deployed, if there's a goo mine in his foot, he's going to take an excessive amount of damage from those toxic canisters coming out from Vandal. So there's plenty of ways that we see Rise Nation able to counter Monty if they want. And he's going to just push through Classical Hall and possibly contest somebody down by 90.
Yeah, Echo, Smoke, and Legion are the three premier counters for Montaigne in my mind. Jaeger as well. The Jaeger is, he works in tandem with those operators because once Montaigne brings the shield down, well, you need to shoot him where? The feet. Jaeger is the best at doing that on defense, unless you got a shotgun at close range. England's going to take down Super, and that's, well, the shield gone. So, okay, Montaigne not very useful in this round. And it looks almost like Soniqs might be having the same struggle that Rise Nation had, which is, well, an inability to win attack rounds. And they are right now in a position where they've got very little going for them. A small hole in 2 games room, and a dead Montaigne with no picks, and not even a sliver of damage being done to the defense yet.
The biggest issue is that when you push down Classical Hall with that Montaigne, you're going to be acting as a distraction to try and pinch the defenders, and that's just not going to be there this time around. Opening up an even larger hole inside of that study wall is going to be Goddess. Neptune's falls as he was trying to battle with Crazy as best he could, and Crazy will get the best of him. Goddess has this hole at her advantage if she wants to move on in, but she's got the Legion on the other side of it. She'll lose the fight, but it's Ass who takes it down. England pulls out his pistol, and Vandal will shut things down as well. 3 kills to end the score for this round. And it's going to be Rise Nation taking their very first defense.
Some of the worst utility use of the night we've seen, I think, period, for the last match and this match from Soniqs in that last round. For example, we saw the Habana, I believe it was Goddess. She opened up the wall, but she opened it so late. First sliver open, she put it low so she didn't have to deal with impact tricking. Then the second sliver started to get open so you can make a crouch hole. But with how much time left? 15 seconds. That's not enough time to execute an attack. And this is in Study, mind you. You know how easy it is to get control of Study? Not very. But it shouldn't take you 2.5 minutes. Study gets opened up. 15 seconds left. And what else does Goddess have? 3 flashbangs. She's got to deal with a Legion deep in bar. Flashbangs don't come out. I mean, there's a lot of bad utility usage. Not only that, but also the Montaigne coming down West Hall. I mean, there wasn't a lot to say about the attack there from Soniqs. Really, really not a lot, other than it was a struggle. Rise Nation, on the other hand, they use their utility very well. The ability to take down the Montaigne early on was well leaned into, I would say, and the fact that he was eliminated took away a lot of teeth from Soniqs. The fact that they were able to dissuade Goddess of opening up the wall for so long, even if just by impact tricking, impressive from Rise Nation. Whatever the case is, we didn't actually see that happen, but Rise Nation, good defense, really solid. We'll see if they can do the same thing now on Trophy. And hey, man, it might be the same thing we saw in the first half, but reverse now. I mean, we do know that Villa's defender-sided map.
Quite defender-sided.
Yes.
And if this is going to follow in the footsteps of that EXG Rise matchup, then you're going to end up with Rise probably not dropping around on defense for quite a while. And the one round that Rise was able to take on attack could end up being the difference maker. But for the time being, we're getting way far ahead of ourselves because the Soniqs are very far in the lead, despite the fact they might be battling from behind for the remainder of this matchup. So
yeah.
You mentioned that it's a different site, Trophy Statuary. It is. Goddess appears to be all on her lonesome, and it's going to be the exact same lineup coming out from the Soniqs. They've got the Nomad and they've got the Montaigne. Now, the way that Monty is going to be used here is very similar to that previous round. Well, you're going to have Super just waltz right into Games Room. He's got one reinforced panel and then a bunch of soft walls. And there's going to be a couple different members of Soniqs trying to allow Super to get right in. And he's got Hyper in front of him. Oh, no! No, 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 no!
You got to check it.
You don't even bother to check it, and Ghost takes down England. He's still got the Jaeger inside a gun vault, but Neptunes will finish him off. Super with his back turned, and that is just bad luck.
Yeah.
Crazy takes down Goddess, and Avian could have possibly been able to get one more kill, but no.
A bit of neglect there on Hyper, and it did really seriously cost the Soniqs right there. It wasn't even a rush situation. I mean, there's enough time for Soniqs. They could have droned it out, checked it, what have you. Unfortunate. The Montaigne, again, one of, I think, the big prongs for the attack here for Soniqs. When you bring a Montaigne, you're kind of... It doesn't scream that you're relying on him necessarily, but he is an important tool that you need to utilize, and he hasn't been utilized over the 2 attack rounds that Soniqs has had. Might change in the future, but for now, it's been a struggle for Soniqs on that Montaigne. Now, they are aware that they need to have a crossfire from Master Balcony, and they're going to send Neptunes to do that. He's going to seemingly be doing it solo. He's only got so much time to actually set up for this take. He will also have to contest with Crazy, who is playing by the closet, I believe, and that's going to be a difficult fight, that's for sure. Ghost on low HP, he will die to a single bullet or whiff of gas canister. And this is a good position to Rise.
Neptune's now engaged in this fight with the Valkyrie. Should be able to win that one. He'll walk away with it, losing about half his HP, and he's going to lose even more. Look at how low everybody is, but it's Avian at full HP, planting that diffuser. No information there. Here comes Vandal. Gets one. Can't down Avian. He'll fall off the plant, though. This means that it's all up to Acid, who's just going to have to wait his time, but he ducks the wrong way, and Neptunes will clean up, and that'll be match point now in favor of the Soniqs. Based off of just wearing down the defense. Good play by Neptunes, who's looked very, very strong so far in this matchup. Only one more round for Soniqs to steal away Rise's map from them.
Okay, I have to say, wow, Avian. Coming off of the bomb plant like that, or rather the diffuser plant, pardon me, and getting a kill when someone's just shooting away at you. Every advantage in the favor of the defenders in that situation, and Avian manages to salvage the round. That was very impressive, very close. I thought Rise Nation was going to push that one all the way, and we were going to go to 8-3-5, but no. Soniqs persist. Again, you have to admire their persistence here. Now, the pressure in Master. Again, that's the difference maker. Rise Nation, last time they attacked onto that site, what did they not have? Somebody in Master. What ended up costing them? The Roamer, the Defender in Master. In the end, it was Ghost who clutched out that round in the trophy defense. That's why they sent Neptunes there. And Neptunes won the fight against the Valkyrie. So not only is Avian's win against the person who's shooting at him while he's trying to plant, huge, but also Neptunes beating the Valkyrie. It looks innocent enough because it's just a one-on-one gunfight, right? But if Neptunes had lost that fight, there is no world in which Rise Nation loses the round, because they would have had the crossfire advantage, and your odds just slip away at that point. At the same time, it also did look like very near clutch there for the last player on Rise Nation. He could have won that. It's fortunate for them. But here we go. Back to, or actually, wait a minute. Wait, I almost said back to, but well, I did say that. I didn't say the last part. We're going to a different site this time, ladies and gentlemen. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's Library Living Room, which is just, you know, most people consider this to be a terrible bomb site.
Rise has defended Library a number of times, though, so I mean, it's not really that much of a surprise.
They also haven't reinforced the horizontal walls that face the hallway on the east side there. No, not those ones. By B. The B walls and the vault walls are all unreinforced. I don't know if it's intentional. Are they playing for retakes? Are they playing vertical? What's the strategy here? It's got to be vertical, right?
I mean,
seems it is.
So. Very similar to the way that teams won't reinforce the walls on border. You might just be expecting them to just kind of push on in when they were playing Armory. Oh, what a play! Shutting down one of the best players on Soniqs so far through this matchup. It's going to be Vandal, and then his second as well.
Jeez.
Just gunning them down as they find themselves in front of them. That's 2 very early kills, 1 minute and 15 seconds on in.
Ghost looking for a kill of his own, but he's going to give one, actually, to England. An ill-advised peek there, looking at the wrong angles. And now, Rise Nation, 1 versus 5, and that 1 is a shield. Yeah, it's a perfect round for Rise. Very impressive. Jeez. I just didn't expect Vandal to be winning those fights. You know, he's just peeking wide with an SMG-11 at long range. That is so difficult to win. And Rise Nation, about as one-sided as it gets.
And that is a statement. But at the same time, Aviator is now open. Make no mistake about it. That's where Rise is going to go. But even if they're successful here, they got to go back to Trophy and Statuary.
It's true.
Trophy and Statuary did come very close. I'll give them that. But so far, it has been impressive the way that Soniqs have been able to deal with and outmaneuver Rise through most of this matchup. That last round notwithstanding, of course, because that was an absolute slaughter. And it was... I'm surprised.
Do you think it has anything to do with the site?
I mean, it's the site, but it also seemed like the Soniqs got a little bit too close to the site without really knowing what to do with it from that point onward, which is number one. That's what allowed Vandal to get the very first 2 kills. Was that they were just kind of in the open, close enough that they were, you know, a minute and 10 seconds in. You're right by the site. You're by the doors. You got the open walls if you want to take them. The soft walls rather that are unreinforced.
I mean, maybe it had something to do with how unused to those angles Soniqs is.
Could be,
because a lot of the angles that Vandal was using, for example, were, I mean, he shot someone through a drop, through a floor, propelling onto 90, I believe it was, and then the other one was just somebody peeking into sights from main stairs. They are odd angles to deal with, I suppose. Not used to taking fights on those, but straight up, that was just Vandal winning fights. At least at the very start of the round. Now, we're going back to Aviator Games Room, so this is a much more standard bomb site, and that will, I guess, make this a much more standard round. Okay, Montaigne has accomplished nothing this whole half. 0, zilch. So that's not necessarily on Super, per se. It's, I think, for me, mostly on the fact that Rise has been countering the Montaigne very well. But that needs to start changing, or Soniqs is going to possibly struggle all the way into OT.
I wonder how fast Soniqs are going to be able to take any map control away, as Super is going to find a Goo very early on here on the main stairs. Continue on up, and the Monty is just going to push on down towards Classical Hallway towards 90, which is a very common place for most Monties to play here on Villa, and it seems to be the warpath that Super has been on. Though I can't really say we've seen a lot of effectiveness with this operator from the Soniqs. Whether it's intended as a sort of distraction for the rest of the team, I'm not entirely certain, but time and time again, it doesn't appear that it's been the most effective for the Soniqs. I mean...
No, it hasn't.
Maybe it's just designed to bleed utility. That could possibly be their... It
hasn't done that really either.
Use of him, right. Because a lot of times teams will get him right up to the doorway and possibly open up the wall next to him, and Monty will just stand there while somebody guards him or escorts him. Hasn't been the case.
I mean, we've seen, looks like a hole from Study into A. That's a really good start for Soniqs compared to what they've had in the past. So, while the Montaigne hasn't been doing anything, at least you've got an avenue open. At least I think so. I'm not entirely certain. Can't see the wall right now. Neptune's trying his best to do some damage from below, but both nades have now missed, and the Skeleton Key isn't faring much better. More pressure being applied to the bar in Games Room, and that's 2 Hibana holes, 1 on each side of the bar. That's a lot to deal with if you're a defender trying to hold that position.
You know that there's going to be somebody playing over by 90. Neptune's has them under watch. It's going to be Hyper playing over there, which is the position that he'd been in before. Super's in a lot of trouble here, though, and he gets down and finished off by Hyper. Looks the wrong way, but on Repel is the buck. Hyper for 2! Super and Neptune's felled in an instant, in a blink of the eye, as Hyper will still exist. Finally finished off by Avian, and Soniqs will look to try to bounce back. Prone on the floor is England, playing around the angle that was created by Goddess, but is unable to do all that much. Avian now taken out by Crazy, who has assumed the mantle of Hyper over by 90. The rest of Rise will look to exist for the time being as Ghost and Goddess break on in. They'll take 2 apiece, and Goddess will end there as Acid is able to take her down, and now, in the hands of Ghost, won't be able to do too much. A perfect trade, but you've still got the echo of Acid upright after he's taken Goddess out, and he just needs to exist. That's it. 1 body left. That's all that matters. Still, Another round for Rise, but Soniqs will remain on match point unless we go to overtime.
Okay, that round was really very simple. The fact that they're trying, or the fact that Soniqs have applied so much pressure to the bar is fantastic. But you know what isn't fantastic? The Montaigne, again, not very relevant, but he's not relevant, not necessarily because of the play from Super. It's not all on Super, but more importantly, because he's not being used correctly. One thing that really stands out to me is the fact that the roamers are not being cleared out. The roamers by 90, most importantly. Hyper persisting at 90 makes attacking onto Games Room so difficult. You need to get control of 90. That's what we saw the Montaigne try to do. But because he started getting fired from two different angles, a crossfire that the defense was, waiting for the Montaigne to walk into. I don't know. Just clear from Master first. The Montaigne doesn't have to enter into a crossfire. You clear out 90, and then, yeah, okay, you can attack. You can still attack Games Room. It takes time, sure, but it's better than just throwing everything at Classical Hall. Especially considering, hey, maybe if you have a smoke to cover the cross for the Montaigne, sure, use that smoke, but it's not being done. Soniqs are leaving their Montaigne too exposed, not using him correctly, and because of that, not only are they not getting the control that they need in order to execute the way that they want to, but also, and much more importantly, in my opinion, they have a whole man doing nothing.
Super
is a really powerful player to have on the bench. Sorry.
There's an intention behind Super, and I can see what Soniqs is trying to do because a couple teams have run this very similar strat, which is that you take the wall that's next to the bar, and then you continue to push on up. You have somebody possibly go on in from there, and then the Montaigne just waits at the door. We've seen a couple teams do this, but I just think either he's not getting enough support from his team, or it's being read perfectly by Rise Nation to shut this down. And if you look at what Rise Nation is bringing, they have the tools to really slow down any shield. This time, one of their best assets was the Legion. It's not going to be available for Rise Nation. They're not bringing him this round.
Yeah. Whatever the case, Soniqs needs to either take control of 90 or deny the crossfire somehow from sight in that situation, that strategy back there. And they were trying their best to do 90, but it didn't work. Maybe a Blackbeard would be the solution moving forward. But speaking of moving forward, here in this round, Sonic clearing out the roamers, and they have done that now. They have control of the south side of the building. That's going to be really powerful. Montaigne, not picked off early to Hyper hiding in Gunfault this time. That's very important. 2 ADSs for a roam that's non-existent. And Valkyrie Cam gone. Great use of the IQ here from Neptunes.
I was going to say, just an absolute banner of an entry for an IQ to be able to grab all of that utility. And it might be a bit too much from Rise Nation if they're not particularly interested in holding that side of the map now. It's taken 1 minute and 40 seconds to do that, but that's an awful lot of utility to use for just that amount of time. It could end up being foolish in the long run.
The fact that the Montaigne is still alive is the big takeaway for me here. What I want to see is the Master Balcony adjustment from Soniqs. They did it last time. It was Neptunes to go solo to Master Balcony, but now there's only 1 minute left. Okay, here we go. Goddess is the player to make this play.
It looked like England was trying to maybe actively bandit trick on that wall, as there's nobody there to pressure him for the time being, but right at the doorway is the Montaigne. Goddess is just waiting for the call. You've got 40 seconds. She has an opportunity to possibly put those X-Karos down on the wall, but she's going to wait for the time being. The sound of the starting bell. Ghost will spring on in. He'll find Vandal as Vandal chucks a toxic canister out as best he can. Super's going to continue to push on in. C4 will go off. It'll hit Ghost, but Super will still exist for the time being. Goddess and Neptunes are close by with Super going for the plant. He's being covered by smoke. Neptune's gunned down by England. Avian takes out Hyper. But Super falls off of the plant, possibly worried about where Acid and Crazy may be. The two newest additions to Rise. Avian's going to shut down Crazy and leave it all up to Acid. The Yokai, he manages to knock Super out of it. 7 seconds to go! And there it is, Goddess shutting Acid down, and the Soniqs will steal Rise's map away from them. We'll go towards Oregon with the Susquehanna Soniqs in a position to possibly grab that second Pro League spot and shove Rise Nation down to Challenger League.
Great job to the Soniqs there, managing to get that 7-4 victory, I think well earned. The Montaigne didn't really mean very much for the first 4 rounds of that attack from the Soniqs, but on the 5th round, it did what it was